Lot to talk about this evening, and we'll get into a variety of topics. So we're going to chat about Amazon. We're going to chat about the decisions related to the new Green Deal. I know that we're going to talk about the events in Washington, D.C. We'll talk about the wall. We'll probably bring up the topic of socialism. And I want to say that the millennials themselves have had a stream of conversations all week long, so I'm looking forward to those comments as well. First, to remind you, you are listening to the Y Factor here on the talk station, FM 107 AM 1240. And let me just brag a little bit and say that I think we're one of a kind. I don't know of another panel of this nature anywhere, not only in North Carolina, but I would argue in the country. So I'm looking forward to this. And I will say that we are posting this, we are doing this on YouTube as well. Okay, Facebook Live. And I'm going to fix that camera so that we can get not only Ronnie in the picture, but we've got Trevor, and I know that we've got Joey joining us in a few moments. I know that we've got Sarah coming on by phone. One of these days, she has been able to connect by computer in the past. So that's what's on tap this afternoon here on the Y Factor. The numbers, if you'd like to join us, 252 area code 247 7282. That's 247-7282. That toll-free number, 800-818-2255. Via email at Viewpoints with an S. We're still part of Viewpoints Radio. Viewpoints with an S. Viewpoints Radio at hotmail.com. And via Facebook at Viewpoints on the talk station. Let me see. I'm looking at this. We've got is Nicole not joining us, I guess?
Nicole is unable to join. She's studying for a midterm at Duke University this evening.
Why in the world would you study?
Math midterm to boot. So
no. Okay. As we call it, Durham Tech. But anyhow, I do want to mention our sponsors for the evening. I've got to talk about them here for a moment. Advanced Water Systems, the people that bring you Connecticut, folks that are practically reinventing water. And, of course, Floyd's 1921 restaurant located at 4th and Bridges Street in beautiful uptown Morehead City. And as always, to remind you about Chef Floyd, of course, renowned for his Southern cuisine, outstanding service, and his commitment to quality service. And I do want to mention to you about the fact that Floyd, of course, is working diligently to get his restaurant back up and operating and will be soon. And the location, just so that you'll remember it, 4th and Bridges Street in beautiful uptown Morehead City, and then number 727-1921. And then the other aspect to remind you about also is that if you would like to enjoy a great meal, he is still providing catering services. That's Floyd's 1921 restaurant. That number again, 727-1921. We still have some more coming in here in a few minutes, but we'll go ahead and get this program started. We have Ronnie, who's joining us from Western Carolina, who's here now. And I'm going to get some background on the fact that you and Trevor are both looking at online courses, as a matter of fact. Sarah, we've got Sarah Brady Wagner joining us from the environs of Chapel Hill. And so, Sarah, let me start with you and say good evening to you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, as always, a pleasure. And to Ronnie, good evening to you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. And now, by the way, we've been having you on the phone. Now you're going to be here in the area.
Every week I can.
Outstanding. And Trevor, good evening to you as well.
Hey, Lockwood.
Sarah, before we get to some events of the past week, I want to chat with you, Ronnie and Trevor here for a moment, and say that you guys are working online now. Ronnie, you're doing some work online right now at Western Carolina?
Correct.
And Trevor, you're doing the same thing? You're looking also at a master's degree online?
Yes, I'm looking at that, and I'm currently taking a business certificate through UNC's Keenan Flagler School of Business online. So It's a very convenient medium for education.
It is convenient, but my question is, does it require, and I've talked about this, Sarah Brady, every Monday evening I talk with a group of teenagers as well from high school, and I ask them about their online courses. But my question to you both is, and Sarah Brady, have you taken an online course by any chance?
I have. I took several in college.
Okay, to the three of you. Sarah Brady, since I just finished with you, did it require a different mindset when you sat down in front of a computer to study and work than it did when you were in the classroom?
It does, but I also think it's kind of useful because that's kind of the direction that work is going today. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to tell yourself, now is the time that I'm going to do my schoolwork and I'm going to sit down and focus and do it, rather than just saying, well, it's the time that it's scheduled to go to class, work is not quite as scheduled as it is anymore, so it made sense to me that school doesn't necessarily need to be either.
Let's go to that, Ronnie. What she's saying is it takes more discipline online. Do you agree with that?
Oh, completely. So it's one thing to have a calendar or a personal planner and, write down the day before, hey, I need to study for X that's happening tomorrow. But for online classes for me, I remember I took a semester of 12 hours. So it was strictly working full time on the road on the campaign and then working a full class schedule. And you have to put sticky notes all over, like digital sticky notes and physical sticky notes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be if you're not a natural organizer, you really, really might hurt yourself academically.
So you want to be. It's almost to the point where you need to take a course on how to take a course in.
I'm not lying. That would be very, very advantageous. Say in high school before you leave, that they teach you how to use the basic to academic
Interesting.
work.
Do they not require that anymore? When I went to school, that was a one great class that we actually had to take to get a degree.
See, the issue is now there's so many platforms academically, like Moodle and Blackboard, and they change every 3 months. So like it's hard to reabsorb that information, especially from a software standpoint. So I just, bottom line, don't recommend taking 4 at once. Just taking one or 2 at a time.
Okay, but talking about teaching, going through the process of disciplining yourself for online education, because you're not in the classroom, so you don't have anybody standing over you, that human being, which by the way is going to become a robot anyhow. All right, now to you on this one, Trevor. You've done this before. You're doing right now a course with the Keenan Flagler School of Business there at Chapel College. Mm-hmm. My question: did it require you? You've had a pretty colorful career. I'll use that term in college. It's been primarily blue, either Duke blue or Carolina blue.
Right.
But does it require? Do you find yourself doing things differently now that you're doing this online course?
Not really. I mean, it just requires self-discipline, like Ronnie said, and you have to be organized. But I have experience through North Carolina Virtual Public School. Uh-huh. I ran out of APs to take at Croatan, so they had to kick me.
That wasn't my problem.
So they had to let me go online to get more.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break on that. We're going to come back when we get started on the real topics for the day. I'm going to give you some background both on Sarah Brady, Ronnie, and we'll talk about Trevor as well here on the Y Factor on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. The Y Factor here on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240, part of Viewpoints Radio. Viewpoints, and if you want to send an email, viewpointsradio@hotmail.com. We have Sarah Brady joining us by phone in Chapel Hill. We have Ronnie here in the studio. Now he will be a regular in studio. Formerly he was calling from Western Carolina. We have Trevor here in the studio this evening as well. I want to go to backgrounds on all of you for a few minutes before we get into more conversation. Sarah Brady, where are you from and what have you done in your life? And good evening to you.
Well, good evening to you, too. I am currently in Central Carolina. I was for the last few years working in Chapel Hill, but now I'm actually just shifted to a travel position, so I'll be working from home. But what brought me here and interested me in your show was my work with the Libertarian Party of North Carolina as the political director. Right,
and I think that's a big issue. Okay, Ronnie, I'm prepared for this one. Tell us a little something about you.
Oh, Lord. Well, I am indeed a registered Democrat. I'm
sorry.
I am a more moderate centrist of the party. I've worked for Hillary Clinton, Roy Cooper. I've worked for Clay Aiken. I helped Will Stewart when he primaried Kay Hagan. And I actually worked a little bit with Walter Jones, so I'm not all blue.
Wow. How about that? Trevor, your background.
I've been doing radio work for the talk station since 2008.
Right.
Starting with Viewpoints and then transitioning to Y Factor through my college years. And
let's talk about your college years because
I attended UNC and Duke as a Tar Devil.
But you took a gap year.
I did. So I started an organic coffee cooperative in southwestern Uganda following my first year of college, and also taught innovation and entrepreneurship at the Daraja Academy of Kenya, which is a tuition-free boarding school for intellectually gifted Kenyan girls.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's sponsored by the UN Foundation and the Nike Foundation.
Oh, Nike. All right.
And Charles Schwab Family Foundation. His
right.
daughter came while I was there.
Okay, I just wanted a little background on this. And we'll, throughout the remainder of the year, and as we continue these conversations, these topics will come up. Okay, quick question, and this came up in the earlier program, Sarah Brady, talking with Mark Rotterman, host of Front Row. The topic of Amazon, the announcement today that Amazon was leaving, not going to locate in Queens, New York. The argument is that maybe AOC, you've arrived when you're renowned for your acronym or your abbreviations, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and others in the state Senate apparently are to blame for chasing Amazon away. And it seems also interesting that, well, pretty much in the same breath, it was announced that for the second year in a row, Amazon paid no taxes. My first question to you, Sarah Brady, millennials, they're looking for jobs. What's your opinion about the decision by Amazon not to locate in Queens?
Well, my first thought, honestly, was, oh, God, I hope this doesn't mean that they're going to come back to Raleigh looking at it.
Whoa. Why not? Why not Raleigh? And I think I know why, but I'm curious.
Well, mostly just because what's drawing, these big, particularly Amazon. I mean, we just went through having all of these various cities just see who can give the biggest tax break, where, Amazon's already not paying any taxes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need them to be in your backyard to have a job. That's what telecommuting is for.
That's a good point, too. All right. To you, Ronnie, any comment?
I'm not as experienced with the economy. I'm 23 years old, and I have 3 years of a collegiate education, but I did see the amount of jobs incoming. I've always been excited for those. I thought it would be a great asset to the Triangle area. I didn't want it to go to Charlotte because that's the second banking capital of the world, and I know that they could use They could use drones very well in that area, but I would appreciate the amount of jobs specifically for collegiate students coming out of state and central in the Triangle.
Okay.
But that's me.
Okay, well, and of course associated with this is the decision by Apple not to locate in Raleigh, which of course they were looking to do. Trevor, to you on this one, does this impact your opinion of Amazon insofar as being resistant to competition, or I say political competition, as apparently is described by the governor of New York, and he was a little unhappy about this. I'll share with you his remarks here in a moment. But the other aspect of it, the whole fact that Amazon didn't pay taxes. Your thoughts on that?
It's an alarming fact about that company, and I support New Yorkers' resentment toward that fact. And also, as a North Carolinian, and I'm just not exactly thrilled about the prospect of them coming here, which is why I'm glad that they decide to have a more organic growth process.
We don't
I-40 is already overburdened,
right?
I don't
know.
We are a top 10 state in terms of population.
Right.
I just wish we could have smart growth rather than rapid, feverish growth, and I think Amazon would accelerate us in such a capacity that we're not prepared for in terms of burdens on air and roadway.
Well, and just infrastructure in general.
You're right, and if they're not paying their fair share to maintain it, then they don't really need to come here.
And so you agree with that, Sarah Brady?
I do.
Okay, you don't quite, Ronnie. At this point, you think that?
I'm looking at the number. I think I'm looking at it too surface level, if I'm being real with myself. I mean, the amount of jobs would be nice, but the infrastructure of Raleigh, honestly, isn't. One, it's not friendly to drive in the first place, but to build HQ2, that might be a little much.
Well, it's going to be interesting because we don't know what the role that Fairfax, Northern Virginia is going to play in this. The other question to the fact that Jeff Bezos and Amazon did not pay taxes last year, what does that do to your view of the the burgeoning economy and the burgeoning industry of high tech. To you, Ronnie, does that have? Is that a negative in your opinion?
The products that are coming from these companies are incredible. There's no doubt about that. If we look at the sales numbers, money made, how many are sold per capita per year, like they're doing great. But the fact that he literally paid $0 is just blowing my mind. Like I feel very wronged because, I'm just an Ace Hardware employee right now, working the lumber yard, okay? And like
you paid more.
Exactly. And this is literally the richest man. So, for someone who has everything to pay no hardship and to not pay into the country, I'm not
okay. I'm curious what this does for the future because look, any comment, Trevor?
It sets a dangerous precedent for the future. And, technology companies get away with so much undertaxation as it is because, very seldom are we charging companies for the waste they produce into the landfills and things like that.
Okay.
I mean, we have scarce resources. And
that's a good point. Sarah Brady, any comment?
No, just that, we've already got this issue is because of the way that our system is set up for regulation. We have the people who are going to benefit from it are the ones who are in charge of helping to write exactly how the tax laws are done, how the regulations are done. It's going to be an ongoing issue.
And to that point, when we were talking about the issue of net neutrality, the very folks that wanted the net neutrality were the big players because they knew that they could keep the small players out of the marketplace and keep. Any thought on that, Ronnie? You're
hitting it right on the head.
So, okay, and the fact that these major companies are in fact the ones who are authoring, for all intents and purposes, the regulations because they're the ones who have all the knowledge anyhow. They know where the next curve is going to be because they're creating the next curve.
And that's a commission of 3, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, yeah. I was just making sure structure.
No, the other aspect of this, and let's talk about this in relationship to the millennial perspective of new technology. In that regard, does this the primary driver for the new technology are that the young, the millennials, the Gen Ys, the Gen Zs? Does this potentially demean the political importance, let alone the economic importance of these companies? Your thought, Ronnie?
So you're wondering
how do you perceive now, since Jeff Bezos is not paying taxes, and everybody would like to work for the next Apple, the next Microsoft,
of course.
The next name the company that is
like an IBM back in the day. Yeah,
high tech company. Yeah.
It's hard to reconcile the fact that there was nothing paid. Okay, but the fact is that company has guaranteed, no matter whether it's a warehouse job, PR, etc., wherever you start, you are starting at a $15 wage. And now the governor actually is recently called by, 2022 or 2024 for the minimum wage to be 15, which is a little unrealistic for our state. But I would still appreciate a company that hasn't done the most harm in the world, just has like a CEO I don't admire to still come to the state of North Carolina. That's okay. That is still my viewpoint.
Sarah Brady?
I think it's kind of funny that the idea that they're paying, a $15 minimum wage because it's easiest for them and they're going to get less slack about having one consistent wage, and that's probably the lowest wage that they can get away with in some of their city centers. But they immediately then turn around and say, well, we're now going to stand up for a $15 minimum wage so that everybody who can't necessarily just go ahead and voluntarily do that is going to be forced to. So, again, it just turns around to improve their business aspect.
A very interesting point. All right. The last question before we go to the break, and this is one that I think is kind of related to the whole issue of, and you brought this up a few moments ago, Trevor, the new Green Deal it's the new Green Deal. That story, you mentioned the issue of waste and what have you. Again, we're seeing new technology which is eliminating, in some instances, some of the waste. For example, paper. You're now going to a paperless environment. My question
It's
is
also creating a lot more electronic waste in terms of obsolescence,
that's
planned
people-
obsolescence, and then companies never are penalized for that, for the resource consumption that they're
That's a very good point.
undertaking. As long as they hit those quarterly profits, there's that's the only thing that they're really accountable to is their shareholders.
How much of an impact did the new Green Deal have, in your opinion, on the millennial engagement in politics, Trevor?
I can't speak for the generation as a whole just because we're not as monolithic as
You're not?
some other generations like to think we are. We are just as diverse and opinionated as any other generation. But I haven't given it much thought. I don't know that it's a realistic vision for America at this juncture.
Okay, to you, Ronnie.
I hate to do the breaking news thing, but it is changing topics just slightly. But 4 minutes ago, the Justice Department has officially said that a national emergency declaration will be blocked by the courts.
Okay, we're going to get to that in a few minutes as well.
Yes.
All right, but let's go back to the issue on the new Green Deal. How much of an influence does that have on you, and do you think on your age group?
It has become the mantra of the liberal wing of my party. Kamala Harris has even endorsed it as one of the presidential candidates.
Right.
AOC, obviously, as
Right.
she brands herself as the one who is considered the architect at this point. We have about 20 prominent Democrats who have signed on to it. But, the only Democrat, or two of them that I think have like the best viewpoint on it are Sherrod Brown, Ohio senator, much more populist, and then Amy Klobuchar's view, she's kind of like on the fence about it. But essentially, Bloomberg, his response is my favorite because as the moderate, I'm just like, it's one thing. I would love for the country to follow what we did with the Paris Climate Accords,
Right.
but anything other than that, like the country is not going to commit to that.
Okay, so you even in spite of your, and yeah, you are a liberal, but you see this as being a little too extreme.
Not a little, quite a bit too
Really?
extreme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah Brady, your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's aspirational, if anything. It is intended to be extreme. I mean, you're hearing Rodney tell you that he, as a self-proclaimed Democrat, thinks it's a little just kind of laughable or ridiculous. I don't necessarily think that even AOC, I don't think she put this forward thinking that anything in this is an actual, actionable goal. They're just kind of pie-in-the-sky ideas.
Okay, but will this, the real issue I have, and this is really a driving reason for this program, will it motivate folks of your ilk, your kind, Sarah Brady, to go and participate both at the polls but also in civic events, civic activities, attending rallies, doing things aggressively, not just showing up, but actually, for want of a better description, participating?
No, I don't really think so.
It's just like, okay, how that whole Our Revolution, how it was once a campaign slogan, became an organization. Then that organization, when Nina Turner took over the presidency, it just went down really fast. I believe this Green New Deal will sink. I think that it's kind of just a, I'm a PR person before I'm a politico. It's just catchy. It's buzzwords, like Green New Deal. Oh, Al Gore would have liked that. Oh, like people are just like,
okay.
People are just gonna latch onto it. Much like I see this NC governor's race, run Forrest run. Everyone just runs towards buzzwords.
Okay, and
Even Pelosi was sort of jaded with this concept right out of the gate. I mean, I remember she quickly backtracked just to follow party loyalty, but she was not too keen on it. Was her first comment.
Sarah Brady, I heard you were going to say something. I'm going to wrap it up with you. Go for it.
Oh, no, just I completely agree.
Outstanding. All right, we'll take a quick break here on the Y Factor. We'll get back to the wall. I'm glad you gave us that breaking news. Ronnie's been paying attention to the news here. You're listening to the Y Factor here on the talk station. Yes, if you'd like to join us, you're welcome to do so. The number's 252 area code 247-7282. That's 247-7282. That toll-free number 800-818-2255 here on the Y Factor. the Y Factor here on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. All right, I'm going to bring up a topic here in a moment. First, I want to remind you about our sponsor, Advanced Water Systems, people that bring you Connecticut, folks that are practically reinventing water. Family-owned business. By the way, we were chatting earlier about Jeff Bezos, family-owned business there as well for a little bit longer, and the fact that he doesn't pay taxes, but the folks at Advanced Water Systems do. I know for a fact the single largest independent Connecticut dealer in the country, shows you what entrepreneurship can do. Started out in one county of eastern North Carolina, from Georgia to Washington, from the Piedmont to the coast, the single largest independent Connecticut dealer in the country. Reason twofold. First, quality products, renowned Connecticut products, the non-electric water solution as their water softeners are known, as well as a wide variety of reverse osmosis water purifiers. And the second reason, focus on service. If you want to find out more about that, go to their website, connecticotnc.com. KINETICONC.com, or give them a call locally, Old Cherry Point Road in New Bern. They have offices in our area, 635-6222. That's 635-6222. Home office and showroom, Highway 70 East between Newport and Ward City, 223-4444. That's 223-4444. Advanced Water Systems, the people that bring you Connecticut, folks that are practically reinventing water. Let's talk here for a moment. Reinvention, the wall. Ronnie, you just shared with us breaking news.
I did. Yes. So the Department of Justice has warned the White House that should this national emergency be called, that the Supreme Court will put a full stop to it.
Okay. And the interesting, well, they're going to present it to the Supreme
exactly.
Court. Well, I don't know if the Supreme Court, they'll have to make that decision. Here's a question in light of the fact that they're making that announcement this evening before signatures of the bill and also the budget. Do you think that this is going to impact the president's decision, Ronnie?
No.
What do you think his decision is going to be?
I think that he will, for the sake of our furloughed workers, he's going to sign this temporary bill, but I think he is going to use his presidential
experience.
And we haven't had that used since 9/11, but he is going to use it.
Yeah, it's called, I think George Bush used what's called an authorization for use of military force, an AUMF. If we can bankroll an entire war on one of those, I'm sure that Trump will find a workaround to bankroll a wall.
You just said exactly what I wanted to say.
Good point. Sarah Brady, your thoughts, will this have any impact on the folks that you know? Do you think they care?
Well, I think that everybody is hoping that he is not crazy enough to try and send everybody back on a furlough. But I do not pretend to know what Trump is going to do, and I don't think any of us should.
I made a joke that
go ahead. What were you going to say, Ronnie?
I was just going to say I like my degree is fake. Political science isn't even a thing anymore.
Fake news.
We've acknowledged that it's at best an art.
In art, there we go.
All right.
Perhaps the art of the deal.
Yeah. Good point. I love that. All right, let's talk about this in relationship to the budget, the continuing resolution, and instead of a budget, the fact that we don't have a budget. But more importantly, I'm wondering the fact that we're looking now at a $22 trillion debt.
Yep.
Is that a number that resonates with you, Ronnie?
I've seen it increase. In elementary school, I remember the first thing I did was I actually looked up the debt clock and how it increases.
And right, yeah.
And we were sitting at 11.3, and here I am. So I was 6, now I'm 23, so 16, 17 odd years go by. We've doubled that.
We have. And my question is, does it worry you?
Oh yeah, and that's why I know I'm a Democrat, but that's why me and Walter Jones bonded over the most.
We're going to talk about that, Walter, in the moment. Good. I'm glad you threw that in there. To you, Trevor, the whole concept of $22 trillion, does it resonate with you? Do you get up and say,
It is almost numbing. It's so colossal. It's difficult to grasp or apprehend. So I don't even know really how to react to that. It's a number so large, and I, as one little taxpayer in the eastern corner of the state, there's very little I can do to change that.
Okay.
I don't feel a lot of agency here.
That's almost, if you want, giving up. Sarah Brady, what's your thought?
I think it's a number that's going to resonate with our grandchildren at this point. There's really kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around, but it's going to come to at some point, or it's going to start impacting our inflation.
Okay, you brought up Walter Jones, Ronnie.
Yes.
You worked on his campaign, and so and we've chatted about this numerous times. I've spent the entire week talking about Walter Jones, who, of course, died last Sunday. He was buried today, a celebration of his life in St. Peter's Catholic Church in Greenville. To you, Ronnie, so the concept of national debt and avoidance of responsibility, I'm using that description, correct me if I'm wrong, avoidance of responsibility, you see that as a major problem here going forward?
I think it's one of the biggest problems. It ties into everything. You know how people say politics ties into everything, private, etc. Like money ties into everything, okay? And 22 trillion. I want everyone to emphasize, not a billion, trillion.
How many zeros is that?
I
is
believe
that 12?
I thought it was 9.
No,
no,
it's got to be 12.
Yeah, it's 12
billion,
zeros.
Billion, trillion. So
yep, I'm
12,
so sorry, but
12
yeah,
zeros.
no. That's a number I can't even fathom off the top of my head, and we can. It's just like when I hear things like Green New Deal and all these things that are very expensive, Medicare for all. I'm just like, okay, so are we just gonna literally double the 22? Like who? And also, who's gonna double our 22? And also, what happens when we can't pay that back? That's the 44 once we double it.
Well,
so.
a good start would be if Amazon and GE would pay their fair share.
Oh, right. There we go. That'd be nice.
Sarah Brady, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it would help if we would stop adding to it in the first place. We can all throw around great ideas about who's going to pay it down, but can we stop adding to it for the beginning?
Okay, but here's the problem, and I've got to bring it up to the new Green Deal and the issue. We've got an economy that seems to be on a kind of a movement forward. The momentum, it's almost inertia. To alter this would seems to me potentially interrupt the inertia. And I want to go to you on this one, Trevor, in light of the fact you're taking a business course. I mean, these are sort of things that you've got to be very careful about when you're talking about business perspectives. Your thoughts? I mean, you can't pull a hard stop on this. We don't have a recession. We have a depression.
Right, and real wage growth is not really that substantial since even the 90s. And
I know it hasn't.
What we're earning is not keeping up with what it costs to live.
Okay.
Products in your supermarkets are more expensive than ever before. I mean, they're not getting a penny cheaper. Foods are more expensive.
Okay.
Fuel, I know, is down, but I mean, cost of living is enormous.
Okay, let's talk about this in relationship just for a moment, and then we'll go to a break because I do want to bring up the topic of Parkland. The issue comes down to, again, the events in Washington the past couple of weeks. Socialism. Do millennials? I have a theory. Let me throw this theory at you all, and then get a very quick response. I argue that the issue of college debt, which is now standing at $1.5 trillion, there's another trillion number, and I'm talking to folks who know it firsthand. I argue that because of student debt, that generation is more inclined to think in a more socialist concept, in the sense of free education, free tuition, free medical services, things of that nature. How right or wrong am I, Sarah Brady?
I guess I'm having a hard time following your logic, because you did also point out that you're talking to a group of people who are also burdened with repaying those student loans. If anything, I think we're acutely familiar with just how much these supposed free programs cost.
Well, you're right. And by the way, and I hope you all were able to hear her. I didn't have the volume up enough. But my point is, all of a sudden, the students are saying, wait a second, if we create a concept of free education, my debt is forgiven. I like the idea. That's what I would say.
Oh, no, those are very different concepts, though.
They
Just
are?
because we have free education doesn't mean that any of us who didn't have a free education are let off the hook.
Well, I understand that, but hey, there are more that are suffering from student debt than those that are not suffering from student debt, I do believe. Okay, who wants to respond to that? Go ahead.
It would be a massive tax cut for the middle class. I mean, those of us who have student loan debt and who went to college are not necessarily the ones who are suffering the most in the economy right now.
Ronnie?
All I know is from 2016 onward till today's date, we love and we are good at selling the word free.
Okay.
And it is not necessarily free what we are selling.
Do you agree with that, Sarah Brady?
Absolutely.
To you, Trevor?
Look, college wouldn't be nearly as expensive as it is if we didn't have bloated bureaucratic management structures in place.
Thank you.
We have all deans and provosts and diversity officers, and it's just getting out of
It's not
hand.
a competitive market either because of the subsidies, because of the guaranteed loans. There's no reason for colleges to try and limit the number of students who can come in because everybody can pay for it and everybody can always take out bigger loans.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've got, before we go to the break, because I do want to talk about Parkland, Gary in Oriental. Gary, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Yes, sir.
Wow, that was quick because Taylor told me, goes, hang on, man. We're going to a break.
No, I want to get you first.
Well, here's the thing. And it's really pretty simple. People talk about the debt.
Uh-huh.
The debt is going to climb because basically what we're doing is our president is, in a sense, trying to drain this cesspool. It's not a swamp, it's a cesspool.
But how do you do it? By
so
draining?
It's going to climm.
Money.
It's going to level out.
Wait a second. Do you think it's going to level out? Let me ask. You're a little more you're a little older than the rest of us, even me, I'm sure, Gary. But
No. You're older than me. Trust me.
Hi. To you, Ronnie. Do you think it'll level out?
I am a 23-year-old moderate Democrat that works for Hillary Clinton, and I think no, it will not even out.
And you don't think Democrats would want to even it out? You don't think there's any momentum either? Or...
Bro, I hate to just say this. There's so many fractions within the party right now. I don't know.
Oh, wait, but Republican or Democrat? Doesn't matter.
There's no path forward right now. I need tangible solutions from anyone.
Okay, to you.
The biggest part of our budget is military, and neither Democrats nor Republicans want to touch any part of the military budget.
I'm going to have to.
It's like a political third rail to say we need to spend a little less on missiles and tanks.
What
it's
about
very
that?
difficult to touch
What-
that
It is.
because you're non-patriotic.
But what about paying less for some of the social services that
entitlements, like
some of the
Medicare, Medicaid,
Compared to defense,
Social
though,
Security.
they're pitiful.
I'm going to have to get some information. I disagree with you on that one.
Wait. Say that again. The defense bill compared to social services, what?
Pitiful. That's what she says, and I disagree.
If we're not including things like Social Security and things that are not included that are outside of the budget.
Yeah, Social Security should not be part of it anyhow because that's paid.
Social Security is nothing more than a bank account. It should be an interest-bearing account.
Go ahead.
Social Security is a government-condoned Ponzi scheme. It's not a bank account. You're not putting it into savings and getting it out later. You're paying for the people who are getting paid
As it should be, though. It should be a savings account. It should be a money-making factor, just like
But
like
that's
a
never been what the
401k
program
or
is.
whatever.
People think that's what it is. But it's never been what it is.
Okay.
If you want to have a savings account, put it in a 401k.
Okay, he agrees. All right, I've got to go to a break. But I tell you what, I want to say that I'm going to check this out because I was reading a story on the issue of the military budget. I disagree with you guys on that one, but I need my documents before I share that with you. Gary, I appreciate your call.
Why don't you put me on after the break?
Okay, hold on. The Y Factor here on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. We have Ronnie and Trevor here in the studio. Sarah Brady joining us by phone. In Central North Carolina, we have Gary in Oriental. Gary, wrap it up with us on this topic of the issue of the budget and the fact that $22 trillion you think will level out. Your comment on this one, Gary?
No, it's going to level out. Look, you guys, I've been in business for a long time, a small business. It takes money to make money. And sometimes you really got to put out money and go, man, what is my return going to be? If you're making 1%, it's a profit. If you're making 10%, that's a better profit. It just works that way.
Okay.
And you have to suck it up, and you've got to take it, on the chin sometimes, and that's just the way it is.
All right. Thanks
and if we need to get away from the politics about this and go, what is good for the American people, and forget about the tweeting, forget about this, forget about it. Just look at the big picture and go with it.
Okay. Thanks very much, Gary. Appreciate that.
What about Parkland?
Okay. Very quickly, I want to just say to the guests here, we have Ronnie and Trevor and Sarah Brady in here in the moment. Sarah Brady, today is the anniversary of Parkland. I haven't seen, and of course I don't watch a lot of TV, I haven't seen a lot of news on that. Is this a topic of significance as it was a year ago this time?
I mean, it's something that people, as they always do with, big national tragedies, which don't actually have an easy fix to them, they kind of want to sweep it under the rug and not talk about it too much. There have been some pushes. I think I saw one headline saying that actually North Carolina's legislators put forward some new gun control laws, but nobody seems to have addressed the law enforcement failure that also, contributed significantly to the Parkland situation.
Thank you very much for recognizing that. To you, Ronnie, what impact does this Parkland anniversary have?
I think it shows a different way. There's one, I hate to call them negligence, but that officer did not respond the way they should have, and I would like better trained RSOs, resource officers, in every single school in America.
Okay, to you on that one, Trevor.
Yeah, it's a very complex issue that has several causalities.
Wait a second. You know what's interesting?
The media always look for little sound bites and things like that where we can just.
Do you? I'm actually
and move on. It's mental. They always look for. They're very myopic. It's mental health, or it's too loose of a gun control policy, or whatever. But it's actually a combination of factors.
I'm fascinated that you all are saying that.
And that takes work. And until we're willing to do the work on researching this, we're not going to move anywhere.
Go ahead and wrap it up, Sarah Brady.
Even the solutions come with difficulties associated with them. I would love to see well-trained SROs in our schools, but I'm also way too aware of the fact that the outcome of that is usually more kids that get put into the juvenile justice system because SROs tend to be defaulted to as a form of discipline.
Okay. Stay with me. I'm going to chat with you briefly off air, Sarah Brady, to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.